Hey guys, I'm JT, and today I'm going to be bringing you my favorite shows, movies, and games that released in 2021. Everything that I mentioned in this video I've either watched in its entirety or played until completion. There was a lot of amazing stuff, so for each category I'll be going over 3 of each. So it'll be the runner-up, my favorite, and an honorable mention. I just wanted to make this quick video because I haven't added to JTReviewsPlus in a while, and there was a lot of amazing stuff that came out this year. So with that, let's get started. Unfortunately, video games have probably taken the biggest hit in terms of delays due to the ongoing pandemic, of course. But the runner-up to my favorite game this year is Halo Infinite. Everyone who knows me pretty well understands how I'm absolutely obsessed with the Halo franchise. Halo Combat Evolved on the original Xbox was one of the first games I've ever played, and I just fell in love with the gameplay and lore ever since. But as much as I want to say Halo Infinite is the best game that came out this year, I'd be lying to everyone. That isn't to say Halo Infinite is bad. It's an awesome game with a lot of bright spots, including fluid gameplay, amazing visuals, back-to-form narrative, and excellent music. However, its free-to-play model, embarrassing in-game store, and lack of progression system make it hard for me to want to put all my time into it. The campaign also had some incredible boss battles, and the semi-open world Halo Ring was beautiful to look at, but there were no iconic missions like the previous entries, and the story left me wondering what happened to all the characters in the other Halo games. I'm sure these issues will be addressed in future updates and DLC expansions, but as of right now, I have a huge love-hate relationship with Halo Infinite, especially after beating the campaign on Legendary difficulty and maxing out the Battle Pass at level 100 in under 6 days of time logged into the game. My favorite game of 2021 is the highly underrated Guardians of the Galaxy. When it was first announced, it had received a mixed reception due to the constant comparisons with the MCU movies and Square Enix's highly panned Marvel's Avengers game. The fact that you only played as Star-Lord also bothered people for some reason. Despite all of that, I had faith, and that positive belief was rewarded. After obtaining the Platinum Trophy on the highest difficulty, it's safe to say that Eidos Montreal was extremely passionate about having the reins to the Guardians IP. The humor never felt forced, the banter between the crew was heartfelt, and each of the characters battled their own demons in a way that kept me extremely engaged and connected to the characters. The enemy types, story, and gameplay were also excellent. I wanted to explore every nook and cranny as often as possible because the environments were so different and visually stunning in each mission. Even though I only got to play as Star-Lord, I never felt like I was missing out because each of the Guardians had a unique role to play from both a gameplay and narrative perspective. An honorable mention is the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. It would have been my favorite game this year, but I decided to include it as an honorable mention because it's a remaster / remake to an iconic trilogy that released years ago. It's not a brand new IP. However, it was excellent on all fronts, and I have finished all 3 games. It's an absolute masterpiece. Definitely pick this one up if you haven't played it before, because this collection is one of the best on offer right now. This year, we saw the return of the superhero genre. 2020, there was a little bit of a drought, but this year made up for it, and then some. I'm not going to lie to you guys. My 2 favorite movies this year are both superhero movies. I pride myself in watching movies from across a variety of genres, but this year geeks like me had a lot to watch, and general audiences too apparently, because just recently my runner-up grossed over $1 billion, and that is Spider-Man No Way Home. Not much is needed to be said about No Way Home, but it wasn't the biggest movie of the year for no reason. The cast was stacked with talent, the implications for the MCU as a whole are blown through the roof. It's the end of the Tom Holland trilogy, and fan favorites from previous Sony movies also make an appearance that do not disappoint. I rewatched all the Spider-Man movies and completed Daredevil Season 3 for the first time before No Way Home, and let's just say I was fanboying even harder than most. Everything was dialed up to 11, making it my favorite Marvel movie released in a year full of great additions to the MCU. However, one movie that stood out to me even more than the latest Spider-Man entry is Zack Snyder's Justice League. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one, or question my integrity, but hear me out. As a fan of both Marvel and DC, I believe Zack Snyder's Justice League is epic in every sense of the word. Hans Zimmer's score cannot be outmatched, the action was intense, all the characters were given depth and emotional weight missing from previous movies in the franchise, and it left me excited for the future of DC. If you are a fan of the genre, the 4-hour-long runtime will not disappoint you. But if you aren't a fan of the superhero genre, then your mind will more than likely not change with this one. But it is one of the more unique superhero movies out there, thanks to Snyder's gritty vision of the characters. Unfortunately, Warner Bros. Rushed Zack Snyder out and basically scrapped his whole roadmap, which is a shame because not only was the potential extremely high for DC going forward, but the company seems to have no idea where they are going with their iconic characters. If HBO Max was able to release the Snyder Cut, hopefully someone out there can restore the Snyderverse. Hashtag restore the Snyderverse.
Waiting to hold you.
A movie worth an honorable mention is Dune. Denis Villeneuve is one of the best modern-day directors and visionaries, and his take on the classic story is brilliant. From the surreal visuals to the grand story, compelling characters, and more, you can't really go wrong with this sci-fi epic. There have been so many amazing shows that have become available to stream in 2021. So much so, in fact, that I split up the category into two. Live action shows and animated shows. We'll be starting off with my favorite animated shows. Arcane is arguably one of Netflix's best shows to date. The animation is superb, the world building is incredible, storytelling is excellent, and the characters are compelling. Riot Games knew what they were doing when they helped create this hit show. Another integral part of Arcane is its soundtrack. One thing I loved about it was how they incorporated the band Imagine Dragons into the show by animating them in the style of League of Legends characters to fit with the setting. On top of that, they played other hit songs in key points of the show. Can't say too much without spoiling, but it is definitely a must-watch. It's hard to believe that Invincible released earlier this year. I had to double check on the release date since there have been so many good shows that came out in the second half of 2021, but yes, this show beat out Arcane for me personally. Robert Kirkman's comic book series of the same name was faithfully adapted in the hit animated series on Prime Video. What starts off as a typical coming-of-age superhero story becomes something more right at the start of the series. Invincible is gruesome, funny, and thrilling from the beginning to the very end. The episodes are also an hour long, which gives it a leg up on Arcane. The cast is also stacked with talent, and the next couple seasons are satisfyingly set up by the conclusion.
We need to talk.
The honorable mention goes to Resident Evil Army of Darkness on Netflix. While it wasn't long, the animation was fantastic, and seeing Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield in a new story was wildly entertaining. The action and horror elements seen from the games are on full display here, which complemented well with the brand new story that was brought to the table. I hope Netflix does more with the IP because the quality was great. In terms of live-action shows, my runner-up is Sweet Tooth. This went under a lot of people's radar, but I thought the timing of the show was extremely fitting for the times we're living in right now. The main child actor does a remarkable job, while the story uses flashbacks to great effect. Although it takes liberties from the comics, this RDJ-produced show is awesome in its own right, despite its more family-friendly appearance. The cliffhanger setup is also very exciting. My favorite show of 2021 is The Witcher. Season 2 improves on a lot of what made Season 1 so awesome. The budget allowed for better armor designs, the entire cast kills their respective roles, the plot was more linear and less confusing, and a lot more depth was given to the entire show all around. Even though it started off a bit slow, it picked up pretty quickly, and ended up on a cliffhanger that made me upset that I have to wait 2 more years. Witcher was just that good. My honorable mention is Squid Game. I absolutely loved Squid Game, and this was before it became mainstream. Like, I'm not even kidding. I got my IMDb user review out weeks before outlets like IGN did, giving it a raving 9 out of 10, similarly to all those outlets. And I watched the show on day one because I viewed that trailer on YouTube before it like blew up. Like I saw that and I was like, wow, man, I gotta watch this. But all that aside, I fell in love with it. Not only is the premise interesting, but I went from not caring about the characters because I disliked them to being actually like really invested in them. And by the end, the finale left me wanting more, just like The Witcher 2. And those are my favorite releases of 2021. I know I'm getting this video out a little bit later than expected, but I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. Thank you for watching and have a happy new year.